All year round, Poland's flora and fauna are full of surprises. From the mountains of the Tatra in the south to one of the largest swamp regions in Europe. From the stork country of Masuria to the desert-like dunes of the Baltic coast. A country which still has enough space for unique wildlife, ancient cultivated landscapes, and people who foster old traditions. The mountains are still in the grip of winter. To the south, peaks up to 2,500 meters high dominate Poland. Icy winds lash the ridges of the Tatra, part of the Carpathian Belt and the smallest area of high mountains in the world. The nutcracker is at home in the pine forests and is at the moment living on the stores of food it hid in the ground in autumn. As good as invisible, the lynx. The roof of Poland, parts of which are still untouched by human contact. A mountain world of austere beauty. Few animals manage to brave the icy East Polish winter. Bison are protected by their thick, shaggy coats. These mighty descendants of ancient cattle have adapted to the harsh climate over thousands of years. They've found a new home on the border to Belarus. Originally spread over the whole continent, Europe's largest land mammal was hunted almost to extinction. The last bison in Poland was killed in 1919, and a few years later, the species was completely extinct in the wild. "60 years ago, the first bison were released again. All the specimens living today are descendants of 12 captive animals. More than 500 of these powerful beasts now populate the east of Poland. They tend to avoid the company of humans. The long winters in Poland are relentless. The remains of sick or injured animals that don't make it through the cold season attract scavengers, thus ensuring their survival. At the moment, the foxes are more preoccupied with themselves. The ravens hastily gulp down what they can get. Cautiously, the fox checks out the situation, even though in reality, it is the stronger animal. But the magpies know how to keep the fox distracted, by pecking its tail, for instance. an icy idyll. The countryside is still in its winter torpor, with daytime temperatures between -20 and -30 degrees Celsius. The continental winter makes heavy demands on humans too. Once a week, the farmer fetches hay for his horses, which even today are indispensable.
Nazad, nazad. Liścia ho. Ona.
Life out here is simple. Those still living on the land have learned to adapt. For a country with economic aspirations, some parts of Poland seem to be caught in a time warp. But there are still people living here who follow ancient traditions. At last, the first signs that winter is coming to a close. The lowland rivers Biebsza and Narew break up and start to flow again. But the ice and frost are tenacious and don't give up that easily. The beaver knows how to deal with such wintry conditions, at least most of the time. Let's have another go. The morning's hygiene routine can begin. 23,000 hairs per square centimetre make for fantastic insulation if you look after them. Castor, a fatty bodily secretion, protects the large rodent from moisture and chills. The beaver's neighbours are a mother otter and her two almost adult offspring. Playful and extremely agile, otters need around 15% of their body weight in food every day. The mother looks after her young for a good year. Then comes the parting of the ways. Day by day, more ice thaws on the Biebsza and Narew rivers. Huge quantities of meltwater are released, causing the lowland rivers to overflow their banks. Colourful blooms at last, wood anemones and liverwort. Moor frogs provide the first splashes of colour in the animal world. During the spawning period in shallow ponds, the males sport a discreet shade of blue to attract females and warn off other males. The flooded areas on the Narew and its tributary, the Biebsza, are increasing by the day. Half water, half land, wild and untamed. spring in one of Europe's largest regions of natural swampland. During the night, more migratory birds have arrived. This ornithological paradise is beginning to fill up. More than 180 kinds of bird nest here and seek protection from predators and humans in the swampy landscape. There's room for both everyday species like the raucous black-headed gulls and rarities like the imposing great white egrets, whose numbers are growing year by year. The biggest bird in the region is the mute swan. Like most of the other birds here, it spends most of its time feeding, apart from the occasional bout of posing. The wealth of insect life on the marsh marigolds carpeting the area attracts flocks of black-headed gulls. This stork is looking for something bigger. The toad's mating cries have given them away. But the stork only wants to snack on a few leeches. Even the starling, anything but a waterfowl, enjoys a bath in the Biebsza. Every day, new species arrive in Poland's Amazonia. The ruffs are among the last, back from spending the winter in the dry Sahel region of Africa. The males are resplendent in their mating plumage. No two look alike, an achievement in itself. There are few species of bird where the show is quite so important. Each male seems more attractive than the last. Full of nervous excitement, they present themselves to the hens in the mating arena. In the rough world, it's the females that get to choose. But the rivals aren't content to have their fate decided on looks alone. With powerful wing beats, well-aimed kicks and stabs of the beak, the males aren't afraid to use all the weapons at their disposal. A bit of roughhouse, as it were. Poland's largest national park on the Biebsza covers 600 square kilometers. Settlement was never an issue. Here and there, the landscape is dotted with farms. working the fields the traditional way. The people that live here have a deep-rooted relationship with the countryside. They're closely attached to their livestock and are content with what the land and their farm yield. They sustain the old cultivated landscape and provide for themselves and their animals, summer and winter. A modest existence, but an unhurried one. Some undomesticated wildlife follow humans into their settlements. Sparrows are a typical example. The track left by the cattle is the perfect place for a sand bath. The slow-motion replay reveals just how thorough and skillful the sparrow's toilette is, as it both cleans and gets rid of parasites in their plumage, and is obviously not just hard work. The working day begins at the Florianka stables. Here the focus is on ponies, on conics to be exact. Gradually, the horses are familiarized with humans and trained for various duties. Hard work. Conics weren't born to jump, but to run. The conic, or little horse, is a race of pony from Central and Eastern Europe. Small, but surprisingly powerful and lively. In Poland, the land of horses, stables have a long tradition. Florianka is still relatively new, having been founded in 1995. The aim of the stables is to rebreed conics, wild horses which died out in the wild in the 18th century. Conics are known for their undemanding nature, longevity, and above all, robustness, making them ideal working animals. The ponies could live outside all year round, but in Florianka they're brought inside in the evening. back in the watery world of the Biebsza and the Narew. At this time of year, the swamps are full of life. White-winged black terns out hunting. The tern's hover flight enables them to keep both a lookout for water insects and an eye on their eggs. Their nests are inconspicuous, but the decisive aspect here is the fact that they float. A crane crosses the swamp in search of a bite to eat. But anyone who gets too close to the tern's nests can also lose their poise. Whiskered terns brooding. Many species in the swamps breed in loose colonies which provide a certain security, including black-necked grebes. Their nests are also rafts of rotting plant remains which are unaffected by changing water levels. Glowing red eyes and bronze ear tufts are their characteristics. In the swamp, the best survival strategy is to get on your own 2 feet as quickly as possible. A few hours ago, this little crane was still in its egg. As soon as its sibling hatches, the family will undertake their first excursion in the swamp. The black-necked grebes and whiskered terns have also produced offspring. The tiny grebe chicks can already leave their floating home by themselves, but only do so when the temptation is great enough. Every year, according to water levels, Biebsza and Narew give the countryside a new face. 2 rivers that are still allowed to make their own way. Damselflies. Dragonfly wings don't beat synchronously, which enables them to hover, accelerate in a flash, and land with absolute precision. Like this demoiselle. The wildlife has adapted to the changing water levels, as have the cattle from the village of Przostowo, the way it's been for centuries. Today the cows are leaving their shed for the first time this year. Various farmers drive their stock together to the nearby Biebsza. Stoic and placid, the cows wade through the river. Today they're accompanied, but in future they'll make their own way. Hatching time for the meadow birds is over. Now the cattle can enjoy the lush pasture and are eagerly awaited. The cows keep the vegetation short. This natural form of agriculture benefits birds like the black-tailed godwit and many other animals. To the north of the swamp region lie Warmia and Mazuria, extensive forests and Poland's biggest lake district. The numerous farms are evidence of intact agriculture, the numerous stalks of intact flora and fauna. One in 4 storks is a Pole, the locals say with pride, as 25% of the world's stork population of 50,000 breed in Poland, on top of church towers, barns and farmhouses. The bird's distinctive clattering is both a greeting and serves to strengthen the bond between partners. According to popular belief here, white storks symbolize good luck and parental care and are responsible for bringing human babies. Wherever storks live, nature and agriculture are still in harmony, and there is food in abundance. Thus, storks also profit from humans. Spotted susliks too. The little rodents inhabit open spaces, here created by the farmer's mowing. Susliks live in family groups and spend most of the time looking for food or eating. They like cereals and grasses. They spotted the stork some time ago and are keeping a lookout. A shrill whistle serves as a warning signal, but the stork is a safe distance away. Time for some reciprocal preening. Susliks have underground burrows into which they can disappear instantly at the first sign of danger. The stork is usually too late. But storks possess a quality sadly lacking in susliks. They have patience. Infinite patience. Susliks are only found in certain parts of Poland, maybe as a consequence of the large stork population and their successful hunting strategy. Summer in Masuria. Poppies and cornflowers are a regular feature, and their colourful blooms attract countless insects. Many animals profit from the wealth of six-legged life, like the hoopoe. Its young are fed a steady stream of crickets and other insects. The roller is as colourful as a tropical bird and rarely seen in Poland. Like the hoopoe, it loves a warm climate and is always on the lookout for larger insects. Its qualities as a singer, however, are somewhat limited. Rollers can impress by their looks alone. The hoopoe's characteristic call can be heard some distance away. On the edge of the field live a family of foxes. The vixen is always on guard, but her cubs have other concerns, like getting their mother to suckle them. This phase lasts 6 weeks. And when Mum goes off to find food, it's time for some fun. The cubs use all of the sandhill to mock fight and scrap. They leave the den for the first time aged 3 weeks, then slowly increase their radius of activity. For the moment, their world is just one big adventure playground. Masuria's forests stretch to the horizon, peaceful and remote. Remote enough for a bird that seeks as little contact with humans as possible, the black stork. In stark contrast to their white relatives, black storks lead hidden lives, high up in the trees. But, like their white cousins, they reuse their nests for years. These rare birds feel at home in rich natural woodlands bordered by streams and rivers, which Masuria has in abundance. Next door, a young white-backed woodpecker clamours for food. These birds are typical inhabitants of the Russian taiga, their main area of closed distribution, whose western tip lies in Poland. Feeding time at the black stork's nest. A 1,000 pairs live in Poland, the largest population in Europe. The young white-backed woodpecker is almost ready to leave the nest. The young black storks still have some way to go. In comparison to their white cousins, black storks clatter very quietly, but have a larger repertoire of other calls and quiet songs. Leaving Masuria. In the north of Poland, the forests extend right up to the Baltic. Contrasts. Lush green up to the seaside, and large dead trees, suffocated by sand. Wandering sand dunes over 40 meters high are a constant threat to the forests in the Slovinsky National Park. Poland's Sahara, 330 square kilometers of desert-like dunes, always on the move. The sand comes from the sea and is banked up and transported by the westerly winds. Creatures that live here leave no tracks. The sand is constantly resupplied by the Baltic. Quietly, almost unnoticed, the sea keeps Poland's desert alive. Morning mist inland. Summer is drawing to a close. Loud roaring coming from a forest clearing can only mean one thing. It's mating time for the red deer. The younger animals have no part to play. The stage is set for the larger, experienced stags. They have only one thing on their minds: procreation. Slowly the autumn sun gains in strength and disperses the swathes of mist. Full of hormone-fueled energy, the senior stags are always on the move. They're kept busy bringing their does together and holding off rivals. The mating season takes a lot of strength, with the stags losing up to a quarter of their weight. And the does will only mate with the most successful stags. A stag of a completely different kind, an elk. It uses the autumn to put on reserves of fat before food becomes scarce again. The starting signal. The humans, too, are now busy organizing reserves of food for the winter. A whole troop of rustic characters set off. Their goal is a fish farm. The day before, they drained the water, and now it's harvest time. They encircle the fish with nets, then steadily reduce the circle. The atmosphere is tense. How will the catch be? A good year. Everyone gets stuck in, and there's plenty to go round. Fish farming is a centuries-old tradition in Poland. The men are old hands. The most popular fish harvested is carp, 20,000 tons a year. According to custom, most end up at home in the bathtub before being served as traditional Christmas dinner. The first frosty night gives the landscape a new look. Elks don't mind the cold. Not even minus 50 degrees Celsius bothers them. In the middle of the 20th century, elks here were almost extinct. Today there are once more several thousand of these impressive beasts in Polish forests. And even if the icy temperatures aren't a problem, the lack of greenery in the winter forces them to eat bark and brushwood. Back in the Tatra, the woods have been snowed in for weeks. With more than a quarter of the country covered in forest, wood is an important raw material. When the woods are too dense for machinery, logging horses are used. A traditional and at the same time progressive way of working, as it avoids damage to both ground and trees. The tone may sound rough, but man and animal are a practiced team and trust each other implicitly. The horses rely on the calls of the woodsman, and he relies on them. The work is potentially very dangerous, so only especially trained, experienced horses are used. Ancient forests and snowy mountainsides. The Tatra, with its prominent peaks and craggy ridges, is only one facet of Poland, the country with one of the richest varieties of wildlife in Europe.